A lot of strange and sometimes terrifying things have happened in my life. Here's one of them. About 4 years ago, when I was 16, something happened that made me check my door lock multiple times before going to bed every night. That day, I invited a friend for a sleepover. I was living with my parents at the time, but they were staying over at a friend's house for the night, so it was just the three of us at home. Me, my older brother, who was 17 at the time, and my friend. My brother hung out with us for a while, then went to bed early because he had to wake up early the next morning. My friend and I stayed in my room, watching YouTube and chatting. Around 2 a.m., my friend started getting sleepy and quickly fell asleep. I wasn't tired, so I kept watching videos. Suddenly, I heard a noise outside the house. I didn't think much of it because the neighbor's cats often climbed onto our coal shed at night, and since it was covered in sheet metal, it always made a loud metallic sound, just like the one I heard that night. Then, about 5 minutes later, I saw a faint shadow pass by the window in front of my monitor. It was so quick that I would have thought I imagined it under normal circumstances, but two weird events happening within minutes seemed suspicious. I immediately got up from my chair and went to the front door, only to realize that neither of the two locks was secured. What happened next nearly made me lose it. After locking both locks, I decided to turn on the outdoor light and look through the peephole, and right there, in front of it, was a face. Out of sheer shock, I yelled and jumped back from the door. It was the face of a man, about 25 to 30 years old, standing very close to the peephole. I hesitated, then looked again to get a better look at him, and that's when he spoke. The stranger was asking me to let him in, saying he needed help. But you know what was the scariest part? His emotions, or rather, the complete lack of them. His voice was filled with genuine fear, as if he truly needed urgent help to save his life, but his face showed absolutely nothing. No expression, just his lips moving. His eyes were completely empty. I was terrified. I just stood there, staring at him. Every second his pleading grew louder and his voice became more desperate. Suddenly, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around and saw my brother. At that moment, I didn't even realize that the stranger had gone silent. My brother asked, "What are you doing?" I told him that someone was in our yard. Then, I looked through the peephole again. No one was there. What the heck? I thought. I told my brother that there had been a man at the door, begging to be let in. He believed me and said that he had also seen someone by the window, but thought he was imagining things. We turned off all the lights in the house and started watching the windows, trying to spot the stranger, but there was no one outside. Then, suddenly, a terrifying scream came from my room. My friend. My brother and I ran into the room, and there, by the window, stood the same man. His face was still emotionless, but his eyes had changed. They were no longer empty. Now, they were predatory. Despite the outdoor lights being on and the house being dark, meaning he shouldn't have been able to see us inside, he looked straight into my eyes. I was frozen in fear. Then, for the first and only time, he showed an emotion. His face stretched into a wide, eerie grin. Slowly, he lifted his hand to his face. In it, he was holding a massive knife. He then brought the knife to the window and started tapping the glass with its tip, all while keeping that horrifying smile. At that moment, my brother was already on the phone with the police. I have no idea why none of us thought to call them earlier. As soon as my brother finished talking to the dispatcher, we ran into another room. None of us wanted to stay in the same room where that lunatic was standing outside the window. The police arrived in about 10 minutes, but by then, the man was gone. He had escaped. The officers took our statements and created a sketch of the suspect. They contacted our parents and stayed with us until they arrived. Even though the police put up wanted posters of that psycho all over town, they never caught him. To this day, I am so grateful for my intuition, which made me check if the door was locked. And to my dad, for being cautious, every window in our house had metal bars. Who knows what would have happened if they hadn't been there?